Good morning, everyone. We're going to bring the Montgomery County Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, July 10th to order. Start again.
No, we're recording.
Okay. So we'll bring the Montgomery County meeting order for Wednesday, July 10th. Let the record show that we currently have a quorum. We have 4 members in the room. We have 2 online or 3 online. I see Nicole has joined us. So with that, I'll start with any board comments. Any board comments from members in the room?
I would just like to thank the staff and any members of the Montco 2050 Advisory Committee. Jonathan and Stephen were both there. We had a great kickoff meeting. I thought the energy in the room was terrific. We had attendance by all 3 county commissioners who really charged the group with being bold and energetic. And we're going to move ahead. And I think we'll have updates as we move along and possibly a party in 18 months.
Certainly.
Launching both the comprehensive plan and the new building across the street. Who's going to come in first?
That's a good question.
Okay, thank you.
Perhaps we're going to have an update in about an hour and a half. Any other board comments?
Yeah, Stephen, I'd just like to follow up on Dulce. I'd like to thank Patty and staff for the tour that they put together for the 2040 for Montco Woods. Yeah, what a great morning that was and lunch that was to go around and see all those candidates for the upcoming awards. It was really informative, great candidates for the awards, and Patty, as usual, does a great job with that. So thank you for the staff.
Any board comments from members online? Nicole, Sandra, or Bob?
I would just add to Dulce's comments on the 2050 meeting. Thank you to her as well as one of our co-chairs and leaders. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Nope.
Okay. With that, then we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the Montgomery County Planning Commission regular monthly board meeting minutes for Wednesday, June 12th, 2024?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I will second.
Moved and second. Are any comments, corrections on the meeting minutes from board members? Seeing none, are there any negative votes on approving the meeting minutes? Thank you very much. Are there any public comments? Public comments of staff or public in the audience that would like to speak? We'll start our agenda. Any public or staff that's online that would like to speak? Anybody? Okay. And we will move on with our first agenda item, which is the Hatfield Borough Planning Assistance Contract, and we'll call on Eric Jarell.
Good morning.
Good morning, Eric. How are you?
All right. Happy summer. Yeah. Nice. We have for your consideration this morning a new 3-year planning assistance contract with Hatfield Borough. We'll actually be starting on September 1st of this year, expiring on August 31st, 2027. It's mainly updated their comprehensive plan. It was last done in 1994, and we actually wrote that. Prior to that, it was 1970. So they're really excited about relooking at sort of the Hatfield Borough and what opportunities they have. They did do a revitalization plan in 2009, and a big element of the comprehensive plan, as it was in the 94 plan, will be economic development. Stephen Barth works with them in their Main Street manager role, and he was instrumental in sort of making contact with us and bringing us in to help with the comprehensive plan update. So I think that's going to be a really good partnership. And if there's any time left on the contract, which there should be, that'll be all for implementation, and they're looking at updating their zoning ordinance and really setting the table for more economic development and redevelopment in the downtown. You have the resolution in front of you, which has the numbers, and I'll leave that to Steve.
So why don't we get the resolution motion in the record first? So first we have MCPC resolution 24-7.1 community planning assistance contract resolution of July 10th, 2024. It's for contract number 374 Hatfield Borough. Length of contract is from September 1st, 2024 to August 31st, 2027. Total cost of the contract is $68,220, which is going to be split 50-50 between the municipality and the county. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Been moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Are there any comments or questions for Eric on this resolution and contract? Who's the Planner.
Tim Staub will be the planner, and Adam Shantz, new planner, will be working with him on the contract as well.
And who was the second person?
You'll be getting introduced to him at the end of the meeting.
And ready.
Adam?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Any public comments? One in the room, online, anybody? Karina?
No.
Are there any negative votes in approving the resolution? So, thank you, Aaron.
Yep, thank you.
Let's hear more about Hatfield.
Good job, Aaron.
Okay. We're gonna scramble a little bit here and move agenda item number 5, which is the Tacony-Frankford Watershed Partnership agenda item first, since Chris from PERT is stuck in traffic. So with that, I'm gonna call on Bill Harvey to get us, or actually, well, say, Bill, you look so much different.
Younger and thinner.
With Bill, you look so much different.
Yes, there is.
So we'll call on Drew to get us started.
The DiBerardinis. Oh, gosh, all right, thank you, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am pleased to introduce to you Justin DiBerardinis, who since March has been serving as the executive director at the Tacony-Frankford Watershed Partnership, TTF Partnership. The thing I like about TTF Partnership is that they're all about making that connection between the community and the creek and the watershed. And from what I've briefly learned about Justin, he's all about that connection too. He comes to us from FDR Park, where he was the executive director. And before that, you were the senior director of partnerships and community or something at Bartram's Gardens, a great place. If you haven't been there, you should go. And even before that, you were at Kensington working as the community grassroots coordinator. So Justin's all about making those connections. He's here to make a connection with us this morning that I hope will continue. So
yeah, thank you.
Take it away.
Yeah, thank you for having me today. I also want to thank Bill for his help and assistance in getting me here today to speak to you. I'd like to thank Chloe Mohr as well on the staff here. Has been a longtime friend, and I'm new to working in Montgomery County. I've had 20-year career working in public space, working in community work in Philadelphia. This is exciting and new space for me to work, but I feel like I'm still on my Montgomery County learning curve. I come to the county humbly as I'm getting to know the agencies and the rhythms of the townships and just the rhythm of the communities. And it has been so great to have the planning team here in the county kind of being my guide, introducing me to spaces, introducing me to people. So I feel like my learning curve is going very, very quickly. I know small part to the people here in this room. So thank you to both of them, and thank you for having me. As it was said, my career started in community organizing. That was where I began. I was born in the Kensington section of Philadelphia, grew up in those River Ward neighborhoods. Next to it, Fishtown, a very different Fishtown than the Fishtown of today. For people who know Philadelphia, it was, now it's like the Brooklyn of Philadelphia. At the time, when we were growing up, it was more of a still working class neighborhood, still dealing with those challenges of post-industrial, struggling, urban industrial communities that I know we have in pockets here in Montgomery County and in Norristown. This looks a lot like the Philadelphia, that I grew up in and knew. But my work started in how communities could be empowered to take leadership in their own course and their own action for where their communities are going. That was the work that I saw, in the household I grew up in. That was the career that I took. The most powerful projects from an organizing standpoint that really called to me and really spoke to me were projects that were around public space and just what it represented, how public space, I believe, embodies the values and goals of a community, that you can have these spaces that no one individually owns, but everyone, regardless of race, economic standpoint, almost any single factor that can divide us, they are the one thing sometimes that we share together, the institution that are most shared, because, most people don't own a park. As very few people own that kind of acreage. No one owns a Rittenhouse Square. No one owns a Wissahickon Park. No one owns a Tookany Creek Parkway. That is something that fundamentally to exist, we have to hold in common. That pulled me into my career in public space. First with Bartram's Garden. And then with FDR Park, which is an incredible dynamic public space project in the city of Philadelphia. And then to TTF. TTF's about 15 years old now. Some of you I know Julie Slavitt, who has led this organization almost the entire way. Julie was from Montgomery County for much of her career here, worked for Congresswoman Allison Schwartz, and really built this organization into something that is doing meaningful work throughout this watershed. The creek has 3 names. That's why we're TTF. That's why we're not the Tookany Creek Partnership or the Tacony Creek Partnership. You know, the little rhyme is the creek so nice we named it thrice. It's a little complicated. You know, you say Tookany in Philadelphia, people have no idea what you're talking about. We say Tacony there. It's the same word, the same Native American term for a forest and a creek that is right, but Tookany here in Montgomery, Tacony in Philadelphia. When it merges with the now buried Wingo-Hocking Creek in the middle of North Philadelphia, it has a new name, the Frankford Creek. But you better say the right name in the right community, or they will run you out on a rail. You know, you want to say Tacony Creek and Frankford, they're gonna tell you otherwise. So that is why we are TTF. A watershed organization fundamentally different than a park organization is sort of the learning curve I'm in. A watershed organization is focused on those profound but often invisible geographies of a watershed. We have lots of geographies and boundaries that we like to create, certainly those of us in government. A lot of times we like to create boundaries that are rectangular, that are nice, clean lines that separate Philadelphia, separate Montgomery County, separate us from Bucks County, these nice straight lines. That's how we like to work in society. Of course, nature has its own boundaries. There are these more profound and ancient boundaries and geographies that are shaping how we live in the world that we don't often see or thinking about. And a watershed is those boundaries. Most people do not know what watershed they are in. It is an abstract concept to them. However, if you are going to make a case for why a watershed is important, I'm sure most people in this room have an understanding of why watershed is important. We're going to talk about flooding. We're going to talk about water quality of drinking water. People involved in the work that you are doing understand the importance and significance of watersheds. But I'm a deep believer that for your average citizen, why does a watershed matter? Why do the planning decisions that we make around stormwater and runoff and stream courses and overdevelopment and building on stream banks, these matter and these click and come through for your average citizen when you come to the place where all these streams and headwaters gather. And those are our great creeks. When you come down to a Wissahickon Creek or a Tacony Creek Parkway, and you are in those special natural lands public spaces that these creeks have created, when you come to a space like that, the reason to make good planning decisions, to make good investments in green stormwater, to make the decisions that create the ability for those spaces to thrive and be special, important, pride-creating places for a community, that's where the concept of a watershed can start to click for people. You can explain why we need to make a great stormwater decision upstream when someone comes to the Wissahickon Park, and you experience that magic of a natural land space that's existing within the heavily built out environment of Southeast Pennsylvania. When you come to a space like the Tacony Creek or the Tookany Creek Parkway, and especially as those spaces reach their potential, and I will say I don't think they've reached their full potential yet, the citizenry will understand why these investments are important. And this is where I go back to my organizing roots. It's the citizenry understanding, caring, mobilizing that creates the political will to make good planning decisions. We have lots of forces impacting the decisions that we make in government around planning and around development. There are powerful economic forces driving us in certain directions that are not always paying attention to the needs of public space, the needs of the environment, the needs of stormwater. You need the communities and the people at large to understand and be invested and be advocating for the right planning decisions for a sustainable future, for communities that are not flooding, for communities that have safe, clean drinking water, for communities that have incredible natural land spaces within them for people to grow, thrive, all of that. So that's what TTF's for. Connect the residents and communities to the creeks. That's where the mission lives. Part of that is through education. You know, that is through getting people into the parks, explaining what's happening here, explaining what's happening in water. Sometimes we can get into our own headspace and we know how watersheds work. That's not something I say, that's not in the baseline information. Explaining it in ways that are fun. First, about getting people to the space, and then explaining these concepts in ways that children can understand. We're going to get into restoration. That's been a big part of TTF's work in Montgomery County, but it's the actual undoing of some of the bad decisions that we have made around stormwater over the last century of development, renaturalizing, giving water ways to move where it can actually permeate into the earth, where it's not hitting at a torrent into these creeks, creating erosion, creating flooding, all of that. The Tacony Creek Park, incredible natural land space with a contiguous trail, circuit grade trail in the city of Philadelphia. You know, you have 350 acres of forest running through the most dense hardscape row home concrete area of Philadelphia. An incredible gem. It is one of the great forests of Philadelphia, certainly the great forest of North Philadelphia, and one where in Philadelphia, what TTF's role is really as an operational partner to make this park, help this park achieve its potential. This park needs a lot of work, obviously a lot of issues of pollution are intensified in those sort of intense urban environments when you have a forest. You know, this is sort of in a park management space. But in Montgomery County, when we get to the headwaters, when we get to Jenkintown and Abington and Cheltenham, the work is in restoring those headwater streams, creating spaces for the water to move naturally, to take gray infrastructure, culverts, sewer lines that cannot handle the level of runoff and intense storms that we are now seeing as our communities have developed, and creating more natural, beautiful, ecologically thriving, you know, conditions that will actually lower the pollution, lower the velocity of the water, and create a more healthy and thriving ecosystem downstream. So we are piling these projects on in the headwaters. I think this is what this can, so this is really only in the last 5 years. Now, any one of these projects by themselves does not transform the outcome for the Tookany Creek or the Tacony Creek. But when you start layering in 2 or 3 of these a year, and you stay at that for a decade, we can transform every stream in it. It's complicated work. Some of this is on public land, some of it is on, a lot of it is on private land. The challenge and with the role that TTF is playing is sort of the one-stop shop to make green, smart, sustainably focused stormwater decisions, whether you're a private property owner or a public property owner. We will identify the funding streams to make that decision happen. If you have a backyard on the creek, we will help you get funding to do a backyard buffer to create a great stream buffer where on your backyard. If you are, we'll see some large projects here. We work with stream keepers. Of course, this gets into the maintenance and keeping it going. But these are the 2 main creeks here in Montgomery County that are headwaters to the Tookany Creek where we have focused. So Shoemaker Run and Jenkintown Creek. I'm going to move a little bit ahead here to show some of these projects. But you can see this is the kind of infrastructure that we're replacing. You have developments where you have parking lots that water is moving at incredible speed during a rain event, washing into it. And this was the traditional infrastructure, just these culverts, which can overflow, but that water is moving at incredible speed during a storm event. The flooding and erosive effect of this is becoming more and more pronounced as we have more and more intense storm situations. Let me just head here. I think so this is one area, this is Conklin Rec Center in Cheltenham, where that powerful culvert was coming through right by the Conklin pool. And this was the work to tear that up and replace it with this. So this is now a part of the rec center. So instead of having a culvert, which is dangerous, polluting, erosive, flood creating, you now have this in your recreation center space. You have a meandering stream, which is a habitat for fish, for ducks, for wildlife. This is a place that children can explore safely, have that natural lands experience. You have a better rec center. You, and let's back up one. Yeah, that becomes this natural stream course. These, these are the conditions you have before. This is, let's get to, and then this is now it's Sisters of St. Basil, so we've jumped ahead here. But I think the core idea of the before and after, we're moving from this and we're moving to this, and we're doing it over and over and over again. One property at a time, public properties, like this on Cheltenham Township property. This is the Sisters of Saint Basil, you know, at their monastery. This has been a tremendous project on public property where we took out, you know, a stream enclosed. We daylighted a stream, created an opportunity for that water to percolate naturally through the property, maintain the habitat. I think so. TTF, it helps on the front end with design, planning, identification of money. And then I think this is the most important part. We then have a commitment to maintenance and operation on all these sites after we build them. That's something that is at no cost to the property owners. If it's a TTF project, we stay there. We stay there to make sure that green infrastructure is working. Our goal in our existence, and we work very hard on this, is to make this as easy as possible for our public partners and our private partners. So Alvethorpe Park was one of our, we did this with Ken Seth Israel on Old York Road. We have a lot of Old York Road projects coming online to get this asphalt, get all that water percolating underground and subsurface containment. Alvethorpe Park, same thing. We had huge runoff coming into that lake, big pollution issues. Now to have underground containment so that that stormwater can percolate naturally through the lake. This was one of the largest projects we've been able to do in terms of stormwater mitigation and impact. So, and then, so that is, you know, I think this is indicative of what we've been able to do here in the townships up here in the county from a restoration standpoint. But I think a key thing to go back to that first idea or that first question of making people understand watersheds, building the support for sustainable, smart, future-oriented planning decisions among the public, it comes back to great parks and great trails. You need great parks and truly great parks and truly great trails to have that happen. One thing that really excites us in Montgomery County is the potential closure of the Melrose Golf Course. Right there at the bottom of Cheltenham, right at the edge of Philadelphia. I know I may have some golfers in the room, so please forgive me. This is a little joke that I like to make, but I feel like every time a golf course closes, an angel gets his wings. That's just from the environmental ecological standpoint. I just love the possibility of a closed golf course and what it means. We got a few of them here too. We can stand to close one, I feel like, down here and get away with it. But this is what this closed golf course has the potential to mean. We have an incredible Tookany Creek Parkway running through Cheltenham, where we can have the potential for a circuit grade trail fully connected all the way to the Elkins Park train station, at least. You know, there are some breaks there, but you have the potential for a high quality trail running through miles of Cheltenham, all the way to Elkins Park train station. That line of township owned creek property stops right at this Melrose Golf Course. On the other side of the Melrose Golf Course, you have Fairmount Park and the beginning of the Tacony Creek Park and Trail, already a circuit grade trail, which can bring you 3+ miles down through Philadelphia, bring you to the developing Frankford Creek Greenway, which can bring you all the way to the Delaware River, and the incredible parks, trails, and public space projects. This is the plug. This is the real barrier that is in between the possibility of a connected creek trail running all the way from the Elkins Park train station to the Delaware River. There's one private property barrier that would prevent the imagining and the building of that incredible trail network. And that is in the process of closing down, in the process of redevelopment. There are talks with Cheltenham Township about creating a public trailway through this property. That is of the utmost importance. Not all trails are created equal. It's important that we do this right. I urge the county to take a leadership role in thinking about this project. Obviously, this is a township project, but I think we have to look at this together and collectively. TTF, the Circuit Trails Coalition, the Pennsylvania Environmental Council, certainly the folks in this room, we are really interested in making this connection happen, because once that connection happens, we have the ability to create the kind of trail amenity and asset that people are going to care about, that people are going to use, that people are going to notice. I believe that it's a trail like this that creates the will for connections to the cross-county trail system. this is the kind of trail where it's big enough, substantial enough, meaningful enough if it comes to bear, that you can create the kind of public will and investment that would be needed to create this to the other great trail systems that are developing in the county. That obviously has ecological benefit, that has transportation benefits, but I think the biggest benefit is connecting communities to the important natural spaces that in and of themselves make the case for the kind of investments that we need going forward for sustainable, smart, thriving, ecologically integrated communities. That's the mission of TTF. Yes, sorry.
So is TTF at the table talking about the master planning of Melrose?
I would like us to be deeper at the table. I'll say that. So certainly we've been in talks with the township. I am really pleased that the township is drawing as a line. We need a trail. We need a trail here. I believe that this project could be of big interest to the William Penn Foundation through their interest in the circuit trails. I think there's a lot of opportunity to do this in the best way possible. And I hope that just as we have been a vessel and an intermediary and a partner in making these other great stormwater projects happen, bringing millions of dollars of investment to Montgomery County throughout those other projects, Applethorpe and otherwise, that we could be focusing those efforts and investments here as well, because I see this as the big link in the chain. So I'm hopeful. I know they are. Yeah.
And I'm just wondering who from the county or from TTF.
It has been.
Any of these other organizations are sitting at the table.
It has been
Representing those interests.
to what I've been able to see, it's been a township and developer discussion. And I think that makes sense. And those are the two key players. You know, you got a developer, you got the township. That's the key. Would I love for that table to be expanded? Yes, I would. Would I love for the county to understand the potential broader significance and really be at the table in a bigger way? Yes. Would I like the potential funders and other interested entities that could really make this happen at the highest levels be there? Yeah, I would love for those conversations to be happen. Certainly, we've been talking to the township. They know our interest and our perspective, but I think there's a possibility as a coalition to do something really big here.
Has there been any planning done for the location of the connection?
So they're still moving through, you may know better than I, but I think they're still moving through their zoning.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna have to write zoning for the property. I mean, it's only certain zones for golf courses, whatever. So,
Residential. Residential.
Yes. Yes. Residential.
It just came in yesterday, the zone.
Okay.
But it's already zoned mixed use, but it doesn't give them what they need.
For many, many years, you've heard me say, and anyone who's been on a field trip with me has said, I don't remember the number we have now. It used to be 72 golf courses, you know, it's down, it's up. But I have felt after experience and a golf course conversion that startled a community in which I lived, where they were promised that, you know, it would never change. And overnight it changed into a plan for 800 houses because it was zoned that way. But the owner said, we'll never sell it. I've always said that all of these golf courses should have underlining zoning for what we really want. Now, maybe that's different in communities. Some communities do want mixed use, some communities do want dense housing. But if we push the reality of saving the green infrastructure, no matter what you put on it as underlining zoning, we wouldn't be at this situation.
Well, from your lips to God's ears, that would be a tremendous change, because I do think there's upside to the closure of a golf course. There's also downside because it is green and open space, albeit with, you know, certain issues, but you could lose all of that.
But no change is not on the menu for almost any property in Montgomery County.
Yeah.
So the reality is we have to think ahead, and when it's possible, and when we need to encourage people to rethink what the possibilities are, to do that. Because we save an awful lot of anxiety if you want to change the use. Well, this is what we really want.
Right, I think the issue is the golf course community or the golf course operators don't want to have a future plan because it affects their tax assessment. If they show that there's some development rights beyond the golf course, then they can't get that favorable tax assessment that it is a golf course. and
Do they
doesn't-
get such a favorable tax assessment?
Until it's
Temporary?
developed.
What's that?
No,
I mean, once it's developed, that triggers the board.
So once it's developed, but if property is zoned without, if the property. is
But I'm
zoned-
not saying no to development, Stephen. I'm saying, let's say, instead of a golf course community, you have a cluster development, a trail community that has the natural resources thing, but you still have 120 units. It's where you place it, how you design it, what it looks like.
Right, but are you talking about like golf courses where communities should have? It should proactively look at zoning or write zoning rules for golf courses that close. But what I'm saying is the golf courses don't want,
To close,
they don't wanna see what the future, they don't even wanna
Well-
talk about a future if they're operating golf courses because they're getting a favorable tax.
Right.
assessment.
but I don't think, making the underlying zoning, if it changed, what it would be, would not negatively impact the operation of the golf courses while they're operating, right?
No, but it would show that they have certain development rights that they don't currently have with being zoned just as a golf.
I mean, you could reassess and you get increased market value, but likely that doesn't happen
No.
until it, develops.
So
I mean, it is a fine line because it's the same kind of thing that was happening with Meadowbrook Golf Course not Scully, Lindy owns, and they basically have closed the golf course and it's just sitting there dormant. And the reason, I mean, they've been looking at other things, but they didn't want to do any master planning because they didn't want to lose the tax assessment that they had, the lower tax assessment that they had on the golf course.
Does the current owner of a golf course have an interest in what the future zoning is? Cause they're gonna sell it to a developer to do it anyway, right? So what skin in the game does the current owner have?
The only skin in the game is that they don't want to see it, they don't want the perception of any other development rights other than being golf course.
But it's only the time when they don't own it anymore, unless they they decide to change the use under their own.
Yeah, we go back and
Okay.
forth here.
Well-
So all I'm saying is that the master planning, I mean, really, the onus is on the communities to discuss this in their comprehensive.
Well,
plan.
exactly, that's what I'm talking about.
Not actually going out and writing land use regulations for the golf course for future use. but
No, I didn't,
talking
that's not
about
what I
the fact
said.
that the golf courses in their communities it should be addressed in their community, in their comprehensive plans to incorporate the things that
Right.
Justin's talking about and Dulcie's talking about.
And in this particular issue, right, we're coming to a critical moment.
So
Not all
this
trails
brings it
are.
up. This brings the conversation up, but that's when the conversation is when somebody would knock on my door and say, do you have $9 million to save this golf course that's already under agreement of sale? Not happening, guys. You
Right.
zoned it because you thought it would always stay a golf course, and that's not a real vision for our community.
And and these are some of the largest private properties in these dense areas, so they have these outsized impacts.
And people think, they own the view, which makes them very, very, sensitive about it, but the reality is they don't own the property. And
And the devil is in the details, as everyone in this table knows, right? You can create a trail along a creek and maybe it's as wide as this table. And that is one kind of asset or amenity. Or you can really be thinking about how much of this stream bank should we actually be preserving? How far back should we be pushing development? How much of a green buffer? Because it is not just about pure connectivity, like a trail you can ostensibly go down. Is this a great place? Is this a great space? Am I feeling that connection to the watershed, to the creek, and to nature? So I think the biggest issue is how much real estate are we setting aside for a trail within the zoning process? And I know the township and the developer in that back and forth, but I do believe a larger coalition. I know this is a project that the William Penn Foundation, because of the potential for connectivity between the two counties for creating a new major public space asset, I believe this is a project they'd be very interested in. And I think this is sort of the most critical piece coming up. So it's something I've been discussing, at the county level, the township level, and we at TTF are hopeful that we can continue to be that advocate, that fundraiser, that bringer of technical expertise, that partner to make these big projects come together. It takes a lot of work, especially when you're crossing county lines. You know, this is a county line crossing project. And I think we're well positioned as an organization, seated in both counties, working with both governments, and hopefully that bridge to make something really special happen. So.
And your willingness to, I think your willingness to take on the stewardship of these properties is huge.
Yeah, and it is the hardest part of what we do, because that's not what the funding for. You got capital dollars to build these things. There is no dollars for the green maintenance, and that's something we just have to build into our operations. We do it through our job training and development programs with Power Corps, and this is an AmeriCorps funded program nationally. We've got people that we are training in green stormwater on these sites in Montgomery County, but I still need to have staff to lead them. But that's just what needs to happen to get the job done. So TTF, you know, we will shape ourselves and our resources and direct our resources to fill the holes, to make green infrastructure happen throughout this watershed. And it's working. I do want to say that this isn't just theoretical. We have 15-year track record now, a real explosion in these projects, these restoration projects over the last 5 years. And hard as it is, it's working. We're getting it done. And if we can keep doing this with the county and with the townships, we can see transformational impacts on the ground.
Hey, Drew, how impactful is the stuff, like, or the things that TTF does, to the Wissahickon watershed project?
They're disconnected.
Yeah.
You've got one watershed and then another. They're next to each other, but they don't
So they're not.
don't affect each other. About the only thing they do is serve as great examples, so that when we want to do something in Wissahickon, we can point to the Tookany and say, that's the type of thing we want over here.
And vice versa. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, neighbors.
They're hydrologically separate.
That's why the watersheds.
Yeah,
So if
right.
we regrade the mountain,
Yeah, we can
grade
grade it out,
between the
make
two
it-
watersheds,
we
we
can-
can combine them?
Tookany, Tacony-Frankford, Wissahickon, watershed.
There you go.
There you go.
There's
Justin, has a line been drawn on a map how the
Problem solved.
connection could work?
So Lisa, and once again, I'm just kind of getting bits of information. I know what they're talking about is creating a publicly accessible trailway along the creek line through the property, which basically brings you right to the two other publicly held park stretches. But you know, this is, you know, speculation. I'm not in all the details of it. I think the question to me, it's always about the acreage. If you got the acreage set aside for a trail, you got the right width, you got the right real estate, essentially. If you got the real estate, everything else, I think we can be a great fundraising partner to build that trail at the highest levels. I think this would be a centerpiece project of the circuit trails. And once again, the William Penn
Remember
Foundation.
correctly, there's a fairly big grade difference between the Tookany Parkway and moving up to and into Melrose Park.
Yeah, in fact, that steepness, I hope, helps us. You know what I mean, right? I hope that steepness really gives us those deep embankments that you would want for something like this. I also know that people can get very aggressive with terracing. You know, I don't know, you know, what the shape of this project is. You can think you've got a good embankment that's going to protect you, and that can disappear in the wrong development. So I hope that's not the direction it goes, but I just, I think a bigger coalition for this project is what will get this project to its highest potential.
So Chloe, who submitted the thing?
The township. They've been working with the developer for a while on this project. And I was invited to one meeting with a whole team there. So I can meet the team.
People have any input on what the change is going is?
Well, I'm gonna get to write our review letter now, but we did offer to help with the zoning amendment in the,
Have you worked with this developer before?
I have not. Although the planner for the developer is someone I met just through professional channels. Someone I kind of know.
Who's developing?
Kennedy Horn is like the engineer and planner. And then there's other people involved. I have a whole list. Wrote them all down. I don't have it in front of me. Maybe Justin knows. Did you talk to?
I have not, no, I've not been connected to the developer yet. So glad to bring this to the attention at this level, and really happy to go deeper with you guys with appropriate staff or whoever else. But my hope is that we can make this a focus and priority project in the coming years. That'd be the hope of TTF, and I think we have a lot that we can bring.
Any other, this is,
That was the end of my presentation, yes.
I have one more question.
please.
In all, Justin, in your pictures, I'm sorry, Jonathan. Do you have interpretive signage?
Yeah, that is usually something that we build into every restoration
Because
project.
I didn't
is-
see them in the.
Yeah,
And I
but-
think that's really, really important. So people, yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's because this is not something, we can sometimes get in our own headspace as watershed organizations. People assume people understand this stuff. And I think you always have to
I
hold.
think it's beautiful and they think it's messy.
Yes, exactly. This is not the mowed lawns that people are used to. When done right and maintained though, that beauty is a more accessible phenomenon. I do think it comes down to maintenance. Maintenance, and that's what we build ourselves. We are, right now, we have 9 full-time employees, so small but mighty team. I feel like, but a lot of it is leveraged through the job training programs. That's what allows us to get the bodies we need on the ground to do this work. So sort of like kind of think about, we have sort of like a management team, and then we have consultants we work with, we have, run and walk leaders for programming to get people out in the park, sort of expanded network of hourly and job training beneath that.
And do you know the percentage of the watershed that's in Montgomery County versus Philadelphia?
Yeah, it's pretty close. It's slightly, I think just a very slight majority is in Montgomery County, but it's almost 50-50. It includes most of Northwest Philadelphia and then a slice, as we go down watersheds, they narrow. So sort of like a wedge coming through North Philadelphia and then down to the Delaware on the eastern side. But pretty much all of Cheltenham Township, almost the entire township, I'd say maybe half of Abington Township, around there, maybe give or take.
right about a third.
Third, okay, that's helpful, thank you, yeah. Third Abington.
It's Justin.
Yeah.
Any other questions for members in the room? Any questions on Nicole, Sandra, Bob?
Well, I like to,
Oh, hey, thank you, yeah, well,
Yeah.
thanks for,
Yeah.
thank you for the time today, and I've really been enjoying the conversation with this one.
Hold on a second. Sandra is one of our board members.
Oh, I'm sorry.
yes, I wanted to express how your idea was just absolutely phenomenal. It really emphasized in the places like Philly and Montgomery County and Melrose, and getting, the communities connected and involved in putting money into the projects that tackle environmental issues. And that is so very important to make it so much healthier for our environment and for everyone. And this whole idea of the new green spaces would be so great for our children and for all to enjoy. Plus, having this, the improvements with the stormwater and management, because it just really takes me back growing up as a kid in that community and just really identifying to what you're actually saying. I can see this actually coming into fruition. So it would be great to see the project come together and to make just things healthier for all of us. Thank you so very much.
Well, thank you, Sandra, that's very kind, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to comment that first, fantastic, this is beautiful. I totally always love and support these kind of initiatives, and I know what it means to run an organization. I run a nonprofit in which big part of the nonprofit is environmental justice and initiatives that we have with different universities and the community here in Norristown. And I wish that these kind of projects could be extended into communities that need environmental justice. For example, when I think here in Stony Creek, all this area here in Norristown, Stony Creek before in Bluebell, I think is running fine, and there has been some work done there. But there are some other places in which we need to think in environmental justice and to create these green spaces and to restore or replace those infrastructures that you are correct are damaging. Therefore, I would like to see this to identify what are those places where environmental justice is needed, especially in places where minorities live and where they see problems that many times are invisible. Therefore, that is only a point that I want to put there, that hopefully in the 2050 plan, we can identify with that concept of environmental justice. and to see into the future in that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Justin, how's your funding with that?
So, and that's a great question. We are supported in significant way in our operating by Philadelphia, City of Philadelphia, and the 2 townships. So we do have a municipal dues structure. Philadelphia paying the lion's share of that. I think talking probably 80+% comes from Philadelphia, and then we get a chunk from Cheltenham Township as well, and then a little bit from Abington Township. Sort of reflects, sort of the size of the area that we're covering, but that does not make up a majority of our budget. Really, it is the private philanthropy, it is individual donors. We're operating, like that gives us sort of a baseline that allowed this organization to get off the ground. But really then just doing what small nonprofits need to do with grant making. We have been supported indirectly by the William Penn Foundation through their Watershed initiatives, through their public space circuit trail initiatives. We've just started to receive direct William Penn support this year. Their new focuses around to speak to environmental justice for disenfranchised and communities of color, minority, immigrant communities, really aligns with TTF's footprint and our work and our message. So we're now entering into a new chapter of relationship with William Penn Foundation that I think is going to allow this organization to grow significantly in reach and in impact. And we've also layered in the capital projects. So the capital projects in recent years have been almost 2/3 of our budget have been these restoration projects we're getting on the ground in Montgomery County.
Have we been able to tap into any of the infrastructure money, the infrastructure bill, like either directly or indirectly?
I do not believe we've hit any direct hits on the infrastructure money yet. I've been here 3 months, so I'm still for like, I maybe couldn't speak to a project a couple years ago, perhaps.
You don't have an answer.
Yeah, but to my knowledge, no, but I want to hold that maybe there's something that I don't have my full hands around. Would love to though.
Any other questions for Justin? Thank you, Justin.
Really enjoyed it, thank you. Yeah, good to see everyone, thank you.
Good luck.
Yeah, thanks.
So with that, we're going to continue the same topic and move on to the Pennypack Ecological Restoration Trust.
This bonus, and I can't be here the whole time, it's just breaking my heart.
Well, you know what, you can just adjourn and wait until you're ready.
I mean, Max wants to take a nap, and we do that place for Max doesn't happen.
How you doing, Bill?
Great, thank you.
The real Bill.
There's no napping room around.
Yes,
here.
I'm the real. My doppelganger.
You guys are dressed the same too, you both have blue jackets, blue shirts, the tie's the only difference.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Miller actually.
Oh, no.
Good morning, Bill, how are you?
I'm great. Good morning. Thank you. So I'm going to introduce Chris Mendel from the Pennypack Ecological Restoration Trust. Before I do that, I just wanted to pull back just a little bit and talk for a moment about why Chris and Justin are here this morning. I know many of us here understand the importance of nonprofit organizations, but when you talk about the rubber meeting the road and the hard work being performed and the day-to-day grind to make change, whether it's in social services, it doesn't matter what sector you're talking about, public health, et cetera, the environment. These nonprofits are the organizations that really make it happen. They're the ones who are engaging the communities. They're the ones who, while they're doing all their hard work, are out there pounding the pavement for funding. It's really hard work. I came from a nonprofit land trust before I came to the county. I get it. And we wanted to make sure that we highlighted the important work that Justin and Chris's organizations are both doing from the standpoint of the Planning Commission, and certainly I can speak to the section, my section for Trails and Open Space. These partnerships that we have with PERT and that we hope to build with Justin's organization are really important to us, getting the work done that we want to perform across the county. And so together, all these nonprofits really create this mosaic of work that occurs across the county. So that's why Chris and Justin are here this morning, and that's why we want to emphasize and encourage all of you to know as much about the work we do.
So with that sort of big picture, I want to zero in on Chris and mention that Chris is the executive director of the Pennypack Ecological Restoration Trust. I never say that spelled out unless I'm saying that I'm going to use the acronym PERT from now on. Chris has been in the role as executive director for about 6 years at PERT. He's a landscape architect and came from the private sector. He worked at Anthropogon for almost 14 years. I'm sure most of you know about Anthropogon, phenomenal design firm, doing really cutting edge, innovative work in the design sphere. If you don't know much about PERT, you should know that it's a land trust, it's a land conservancy. It's focused on the central Pennypack Creek watershed. It's headquartered in Huntington Valley, and PERT uses conservation, like many land trusts, uses conservation easements and fee acquisitions as the primary tools for its land conservation work. The other thing that PERT does, and this is very reflective of the evolution of land trusts, especially over the last 10, 15, 20 years, land trusts aren't just land conservation organizations anymore. They do that, but they've expanded their missions frequently to include education, which is really important. And Justin talked about education as part of TTF's work, but PERT is heavily focused on educating people through its work and also research. And that research can come in the form of restoration projects or even more specific scientific work to understand how things like meadows work and what the ecological benefits of meadows and other environmental projects are. So PERT focuses on land conservation, education, and research as kind of its core areas, and Chris is going to talk about that in much more detail. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you. Like Justin, Chris is going to focus on the mission and history of PERT, some of the current projects, and then ways that we've partnered in the past and hope to partner in the future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was a fantastic introduction, robust.
Thanks for the introduction and also the comments about nonprofits. I mean, I think
Thank you.
It was huge.
Yeah. The Pennypack Ecological Restoration Trust started as a watershed association in 1971. We started acquiring land in the mid-70s and made a transition to a land trust in the early 90s. So we do have our roots in trying to improve water quality for the entirety of the watershed, most of which is in Montgomery County, of course, draining through Philadelphia County, just above Tacony-Frankford, to the Delaware. We are 954 acres right now, having just improved by 42. Many thanks to many of the people in this room. Here's a good look at our meadows. We call Wraithorn Farm, upland areas. Also, we own 4 miles of the Pennypack Creek itself, contiguous miles of the creek. So we have a lot of floodplain that has been continuously occupied for hundreds of years. So there's been a lot of logging, a lot of roadways, and a lot of undoing of that agricultural and colonial industrial process that has created the peri-urban environment, we call it, for the Pennypack Trust. We emphasize habitat improvement primarily. So here's an example of a wetland duck pond that now is home to beaver. And we are part of guiding the resurgence of nature in the floodplain of the Pennypack. So here's a good look at a swamp maple forest that will soon be part of the mosaic of the cross-county trail. We are also a cultural landscape, being part of Upper Moreland, Lower Moreland, Brenathan. We are part of the history of open space and really one of the last functioning agricultural feeling areas in eastern Montgomery County. Our mission is really quite simple. To always be, I like the use of the word forever here because land trusts are in the business of in perpetuity. We are forever an enhancement to our community members, to our community. We will always be a natural landscape populated by native plants and animal life. And we seek to be a standard of excellence for innovative restoration and a partner to all those who are in the business of ecological restoration with a focus on the suburban environment. How are we the lungs and the kidneys, the filters for larger metropolitan areas? And this is us, way out here in the upper left-hand corner. It bothers me that this is not north oriented, but that is in fact the eastern corner of Montgomery. But it does fit nicely on that slide. So as you can tell, and as all of you know, emphasis on parks, recreation, open space, and agriculture is way out here to the west and to the north of the county. We are one of the green spots in association with Justin's organization for passive recreation and active recreation in the eastern portions of Montgomery County. So getting into some detail here, here's the northern half of our property map within the Pennypack Ecological Restoration Trust. Everything in gold is what we own fee simple. Everything in blue is conservation easements. Everything in purple is that which we covet. So just for a little bit of context, because I know we're very zoomed in here, this straight line across the top is the Trenton cutoff, the Norfolk Southern line. And then just above that is 276. So that's a very hard buffer to habitat within the watershed. The creek is running down this way and it gets sinuous, and we're right along the Pennypack Trail, right? And everything in purple is again where we are focusing our relationships and trying to expand natural systems and protection of these areas to prevent development. And I'm very happy to report that this 42 acre parcel is what we collectively conserved at the June fete just 3 weeks ago. So the southern portion, so we've just kind of moved the map up here. The front of the portion gets us into Lower Moreland Township and Abington Township. And the Pennypack Creek is here crossing Welch Road, and it's going into that golf course that you guys were just talking about. That's the Meadowbrook Golf Course, what was called the Meadowbrook Executive Golf Course. And Carolyn Hirsch Lindy is really the person pulling the strings there for Lindy Properties, what's called Pleasantville Gardens right now. I'm happy to report that most of that is in the floodplain and also in the floodway, and that this unnamed area here is owned by you all, right? The county of Montgomery, Montgomery County, excuse me. And just below this is Lorimer Park. So our ambitions as a land trust are to help conserve that area and bring together Lorimer Park and Pennypack Trust so that we have good functioning ecological systems, good ecosystem services for this part of Montgomery County, and we can perhaps envision trail systems that get folks from Abington Township and Lower Moreland Township better connected to the success that is the Pennypack Trail. So, as Bill talked about, you were all familiar with the fact that land trusts are here to largely prevent this in key areas, development, and making sure that we are in partnership with landowners for areas that may flip or areas that will be potentially contiguous with us. Another distinguishing factor about the Pennypack Ecological Restoration Trust as compared to other land trusts is that we only purchase or ease land that is contiguous with what we already own. So that emphasis on habitat quality and habitat mass is very important to us. We are, despite the fact that we are surrounded by residential development, we are wonderful habitat for these guys. Now for beaver, beaver have really made a resurgence across most of the creeks into the Philadelphia metro area. And we are happy to host them, though it is marginal habitat for them. We have lots of turkey, and in fact, the Game Commission is considering opening up turkey hunting within 5D. I'm not a supporter of that, but that's an indicator of how robust those populations are. Coyotes, I know a lot of folks still have negative feelings about coyotes, but in fact, the presence of coyotes has really reduced the amount of canine distemper and rabies that we see in possums, raccoons, and foxes, because they keep all of those animals on their toes. So coyotes are, you'll never see them, but they're there and they're keeping everybody else moving. And as a byproduct of the success of beaver, we have mink. All of these photos are of wildlife within the Pennypack Ecological Restoration Trust. And that mink is eating the sunnies that do extremely well in the warm water fisheries that is eastern Montgomery County. Yet we do have a chapter of Trout Unlimited that will throw hundreds of cold water trout into those streams as well. There's a lot of recreational benefit to the Pennypack Creek, the amount of fishermen, the amount of cyclists, the amount of health services that trail provides is remarkable. And we at the trust are essentially the context for that trail, and we want to continue that thread. It is also with Dulcie's help that we were part of the Return on Environment report, which indicates that we are responsible for $1.2 million of ecosystem services to this part of Montgomery County annually. That's a huge number. It also coincidentally is our operating budget. So we maintain a $1.2 million operating budget, largely based on 1,400 members and some part of endowment. Grants, generally speaking, we take grant money and we use that to do afforestation outside of our boundaries. Oh, I want to go back to those figures that you see on the left here. Again, 956 total acres. Most of it we own outright. 4 miles of creek, including lots of floodplain, 11 miles of trails. We have about 35,000 visitors every year. Lorimer Park, on the other hand, gets 400,000 vehicle visits every year, just below us. It's a remarkable shift in density. We have 14 staff, 5 of whom are part-timers, and we use those, just as Justin was saying, instead of using Power Corps and other job training services, we leverage volunteers in the neighborhood. So we have 500 volunteers that are effectively 1.5 full-time equivalents running our reforestation efforts, essentially. Just as Justin was saying, it is all about maintenance. We plant 800 trees a year. I think that's what we're going to right here. Just gonna skip ahead for a second. We plant 800 trees a year, either in the land trust itself, on our conservation easements, or lately we've been partnering very hard with Upper Moreland Township and Lower Moreland Township, helping to reforest areas that haven't seen reforestation in a very long time. And we use those volunteers to stand behind those trees and those cages for the next 5 years and make sure that we have close to 100% success rate with those trees. And I'll tell you more about that in just a second. But we have to plant because deer density is so heavy that we would not get, in fact, in most of Montgomery County, you do not get forest regeneration naturally. It just doesn't happen. So you have to pay for the service, essentially. As I said, we're very pleased that Montgomery County's Pennypack Trail runs right through the middle of the heart of the Pennypack Ecological Restoration Trust. We're happy to be the context of that experience. And as you guys have probably seen, Bucks County has announced the extension of that trail system well up into Churchville Nature Center now. So I saw that press release just yesterday.
Is that through Northampton?
Through Southampton, starting in Southampton and moving up into Churchville.
Because they did Southampton extension.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I always thought the stopping point was Northampton.
It's the Newtown Rail Trail Phase 2 is what was announced yesterday. All right. So that large body that is the center of the Pennypack Trust, a lot of those lands were cobblestoned together in the 1980s, but it was with the help of the county that we purchased Wraithorn Farm, 136 acres of grassland.
Chris,
Yes.
I want to publicly say, I'm really sorry that I'm going to miss the rest of your presentation, but I want to tell people, if you want to understand the importance of this landscape, get somebody to take you up in a hot air balloon so you can see how amazing this is next to the density, to the the population around it. I had the chance when you did Raythorn Forum many years ago. What they did to make people aware is to take you up just, I don't know, 500 feet, whatever it is. And you go, oh my goodness, how did this ever happen? Because it was touching Northeast Philadelphia and it was like a miracle. So good luck with the rest of it.
Thanks, Dulcie.
But an opportunity arose that I have to take advantage of.
Yeah.
California, so.
Great.
Thank you.
Bill and I are working on the Cross County Trail. In fact, I'm just gonna wager a guess here that 75% of the first phase of the Cross County Trail will occur on Pennypack Trust land. And that will connect the Pennypack Trail to the Cross County Trail. It's an important nexus, and I think quite a lot of opportunity for increased tourism into the architectural gems of Bryn Athyn are one of the things that that nexus should emphasize. Lots of education of small groups, but also education of local school districts. We try and make sure that folks really understand the fundamentals of ecosystem services through direct hands-on experience. And we are responsible for the health and wellness and the open space needs of Upper Moreland, Lower Moreland, Southampton Township. So we take that very seriously. Getting back to the volunteers, we use volunteers not just for the tree plantings, but also for the site preparation. And I think most importantly, we use them for babysitting those trees in their first 5 years. And we have a program called the Reforester Program that really is my main pitch to the county right now. So if you're looking at a site analysis drawing from Sean Garrigan's office, SGA, who is doing the master plan for Lorimer Park. So once again, we're not north oriented, but this is the body of Lorimer Park, and Pennypack Trust is just upstream to the left. In fact, we just acquired 14 acres along Valley Road right here. And this is the golf course that we've now mentioned 3 times, the Meadowbrook Golf Course.
Which 14 acres did you acquire? Which 14 acres did you acquire on Valley Road?
This is a short property, right, where Mill and Valley come together.
On with the wetland behind it?
Correct.
Yeah.
Wetlands and septa.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great.
Also very popular with beaver, and I will say to Carolyn Hirsch-Lindy's credit, those abandoned golf courses are currently under beaver management, and I can't imagine there'd be a better keeper of that. So we're happy to be a part of the Lorimer Park Master Plan and to think about the active and the passive recreation balancing act that the trust and Lorimer Park can do together when we think collectively about the 250 acres that is Lorimer Park. And also trying to disentangle the issues of having a tremendously popular trail with a tremendously popular park. And those things are need to be disentangled and thought of independently of one another. So that's an exciting thing. And I think Sean Garrigan is doing a wonderful job of marshaling those tools. But I think what we offer to not just to Lorimer Park, but any other park system, township park systems in our realm, is that we understand what it takes to do afforestation in the suburban area. So when you plant trees on Earth Day, by July, this is what it looks like. If you do nothing, you are covered in mileminute, covered in porcelain berry, and really all it takes is a set of pruners to handle that. I can tell you also in terms of staff, forget about it. This is a map of how my staff move around our 950 acres over the course of a year. Look at how much area we don't touch, and that's professional staff. So you really need a volunteer corps, and training a set of volunteers with a set of pruners, but also with an app so that they can communicate with us. We envision them, that we treat them essentially as light infantry. And when they get in over their heads, we become the heavy infantry. We can help clear them. We can also help, they will tell us when they need new trees, when they need more cages. They are trained to recognize the young saplings that are volunteering all by themselves that need protection. So oftentimes our mortality is attrited by that stuff that our volunteers are recognizing as good native stock. So that's free afforestation when you train and support your volunteers the right way. We've built an app using Esri products so that they can communicate with us. They can report to us how many times they're getting to their plot, and also tell us what materials they might need. And also these volunteers can look at other people's plots too. So we're building community around these precincts that we're giving them. And these are individuals, not clubs, by the way. We want individuals to have close contact and really feel responsible for their precinct in a park or in the Pennypack Trust. We've been doing this now for 3 years. We have 70 such volunteers. So that is something, I'm skipping ahead to Montco 2050 here. That is something that I think the Pennypack Trust offers to certainly Lorimer Park, but also to Upper and Lower Moreland Township Parks and Rec. And we're actively trying to make inroads with those townships to make this happen. The same money that fueled Justin's beautiful work and restoration work in the TTF is the money that we've used in Upper and Lower Moreland Township to do restoration within township parks. And so now we're backfilling the million, we won $1 million worth of William Penn, DCNR, and NIFWIF money to enhance the habitat and water quality of Upper Moreland Township parks and a few HOAs. And now we use the reforester program to make sure that the maintenance stays on track. Lastly, and Dulcie, I think, as well as Scott, are responsible. Thank you very much for inviting me to be a part of the advisory committee of Montco 2050. It is a delicious opportunity to think about the future of open space and the health of 850,000 people within this county through the protection of open space and the promulgation of trails and the context of those trails. So that is my last slide. Oh, no, it's not. I already said thank you, but here we do have to celebrate the June fete and the fact that these 42 acres were conserved. We now own them fee simple. We have a vision for how this will be interconnected within our trail system. But most importantly, this was dead flat landscape, zoned it was ready to be developed. In fact, Bruce Toll and Bruce Goodman both sit on the Abington Hospital board. They were beating their chests about what they could do with this site, but we got it. So thank you so much for your help in that. And I really
will they still have June fete here, or is that done?
The June fete is not done.
Okay.
And we will continue to help the June fete happen.
Right.
And that's part of our planning. But if and when the June fete does not happen, we have a plan for that too. So thank you very much for your time. Happy to hear what you think about this and any questions you have.
So I'm gonna get started because I'm through these trails on a weekly or couple times a month. I love these trails, both in Larimer and through the PERT. I go through the farm and into the woods and down through the creek bed and then up to Pennypack and up to Paper Mill Trail and then back down. I mean,
Great.
It's great to get lost in there. I don't think people know it as well as they know the trails in Larimer. Because I think it's just Larimer is set up as a park and PERT is kind of this meandering, connected, conserved area, which I think is somewhat intimidating to some people. Because make the wrong turn and you could be in there forever.
Yeah.
But it's great. I mean, I've used it in the winter for snowshoeing and cross-country skiing, which hasn't been much lately to do.
Yeah.
But I'm in, like, I want to volunteer, so I'll talk to you about that. But
Great.
I'm through there all the time, and it's a great place. It really is. It really is nice. I've never been up on a hot air balloon there, but you know, you can certainly see in the winter and in fall how colors change. You can see how the overgrowth, I mean, how much gets overgrown and how much needs to be maintained. Not only the trails, but some of the areas that are being planted. And so it's a great place. And I appreciate all the efforts that everybody does there. And I invite anybody if they want to go for a hike or something, you know, I'm more than happy to take you, but there's a lot of ups and downs and a lot of level grade change and context change. It's just great. It's a great place. So.
Do you want to attract more people to use the trails, or does that conflict with your preservation?
The short answer is yes, and we have a signage and wayfinding system that we've carefully designed so that we're focusing people on trails that we know that we can maintain, and we will have some what I call off-menu trail items where you really have to be a local insider to know how to reach those areas. It's fun. I think it's a great compliment that you can get lost within our acreage in the midst of all of our context. But we also have to be wary of the systems that we're trying to protect. And the greatest way to screw that up, I think, is to over trail and invite everybody to every last corner that you own. So, and I'm happy to see that the Lorimer Park Master Plan is also thinking about what is the balancing act between loving nature and loving it to death.
See, I agree with you there, because I think actually Lorimer has too many trails.
Yes.
I would like to see them eliminate some of that trail network. I think people can just, and it invites people just wandering over land that's not set up as a trail. Because there are so many trails, you can literally see the next trail across an open space, piece of land. And I think that kind of is counterproductive. I
So
would like to
people
see
walk from one trail to another.
through land that's not
Through
set
land
up as
that's
a
not a
trail,
trail.
and it causes another trail to be,
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't happen too often, but I think Larimer, I would agree with you, I think Larimer has too many trails.
Yeah.
Too many opportunities, whereas I think what happens through the PERT location, I mean, it's a bigger space. But I think most people in the PERT land will use the Pennypack trail because it's just.
Well, collectively thinking about what PERT offers and what Lorimer offers, I think is going to help us preserve what's good and special about each of us. So I'm super happy to be part of that master planning process. Sorry.
Yeah, no, thank you. I love your mission. The mission is beautiful, very well phrased, each of the elements that considers. And also, I wanted to mention that I really like it to see the 300 trees. 300 trees is
800 trees.
800 trees. 800 trees. Something that we do in the Centro de Cultura, in the Cultural Center, is actually planting trees. Last year we planted 100 trees, but in city environment, which will be here, Norristown. It has been here. Do you have educational programs for tree education or tree understanding?
We have a tiered level of volunteer engagement.
Okay,
Yes.
that is only for that. But do you partner with other nonprofits educating tree education?
No,
Tree
we don't.
workshops?
We don't.
No.
We have our own our own educating staff.
For your own, okay.
Correct.
And the second thing, it made me think then do you receive guests or visitors? Do you partner with other nonprofits that they can bring after school programs or classes to walk into the area?
So I'm in the midst of $1.4 million worth of renovations, mostly at headquarters, but also for our back of house facilities, so that we know who it is. We know that we are welcoming a larger group of folks, and we can do that with style. So everything from bathrooms and parking lots to creating more educational classrooms that have good indoor-outdoor relationships. So we're building the infrastructure for that. In fact, I hope to finish that construction this September. And then signage and wayfinding will be the icing on that cake. So we would love to partner.
I think that's fantastic, because I think a lot of this, it needs to be spread into new generations.
Yes.
And for them to have access to that.
Yes.
In my case, as a cultural center, that's why I came a little bit too late today, is because we have the summer camp right now running. And I had to be there when the kids were leaving into the school center, and then after that, I just came running here. But we love when the kids go to the Schuylkill Center, when they go to the Mill Grove, or when they go to other places, and they learn.
Yes.
And they do photography or they do filmmaking, and at the same time they are learning. And finally, it reminded me, I don't know if you have watched this documentary, it's called Salt of the Earth, that talk about Sebastião Salgado, the Brazilian photographer, with whose wife restored a part of the Amazons. It's a beautiful documentary. You can watch it.
What's the name of it?
The Salt of the Earth. Sebastião Salgado is perhaps the best photographer in the world of the last part of the 20th century and the early 21st century. His books are amazing. As I am a photographer, and it's just, and all what they did with all his work as a photographer for 50 years, it was to restore a part of the Amazons. It's beautiful.
Well, in a very,
To watch it.
I hear you loud and clear. And just last night, in fact, I was hosting a watch party at the Pennypack Trust to see an episode of Nature where this community in Australia is using platypus as the moniker for the need to conserve watersheds and to have healthier streams. And the amount of our job is to create generational values around conservation and making sure that humans are the stewards of these, particularly in that peri-urban environment, in the suburban environment, to make sure that we are making land that is going to be healthy for future generations and making sure that parents know how to educate their kids so that they can move those values along. I'm really looking forward to more partnerships, not just with other NGOs, but with the county, and really to engage with anybody with a desire to see conservation as something that is part of the quality of life for that space. Yes,
So I would say, this has been an education for me, and I'm embarrassed to actually admit that as a resident of the center part of the county, my exposure to your projects and Justin projects has been limited to a 45-mile-an-hour drive-by on my way from point A to point B. And that, while I was certainly aware that they existed, I was not aware to the depth of coverage and the depth of experience that one could have at both of these locations. If I were to want to explore on my own, I'm assuming that I can get to a website and it will give me directions about how I could get there or park and.
You give me a call.
Now, this has been really informative, but again, like I said, I'm embarrassed not to know about this. But
well,
it's huge. This is huge.
We are 1 mile from the middle of Willow Grove, right? And regularly I get folks who were born and raised in Willow Grove in their, my age, in their 50s, saying, I had no idea this place existed. I've driven down Turwood Road my entire life. I saw some horses. I thought that was private land. And so I think what we need to take seriously is that we are not properly advertising what we offer to the public. And we need to do more in order to make sure that we are making that mission statement and just the entrance more noticeable. It can be that simple. I think there is a bit of quietude to this land trust that we need to exit out of.
Well, it almost gets back to what Jonathan was saying. If you really want to attract the people to start to impact your environmental message.
Yes.
It's like, geez, blessing and a curse, right?
Yes.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yes, you have to be pragmatic.
Yeah, and just from my experience, I don't see that happening. Like, I don't see the masses showing up here to the point where they would affect.
Well, there was
already a well-established trail network and keeping people on those and not affecting and not wandering out into the areas.
There was a massive fight on our board that thankfully I was not a part of when the county trail came right through the middle of the Pennypack Trust. So that was an abandoned rail line. SEPTA just said, yeah, sure, we'll own it, we'll hold on to it. And then Shapiro and others said, let's And the county said, let's make this trail work. And half the board said, over my dead body, are we going to do that? Are we gonna let thousands of people run straight up the gut of this nature preserve? And what actually happened is that those folks who were there to walk their dogs and ride their bike and run 2.5 miles preferred to stay on that trail because it was finely groomed as a multifunction trail. And those folks who wanted to bird and wanted to be a part of nature moved on to the Pennypack trails. And so there was this natural segregation, if you will, of the intensity of use. And it is because of that we've been able to let the cross-county trail come right across now the east-west axis of the Pennypack Trust. And the board's like, oh yeah, we don't have to worry about this.
And I think the difference is like, we run the Pennypack Trail, it's a flat trail. Not a lot of grade change, but you go into PERT land and, you're up and down all the time, and which some people prefer, but you also get the solitude to some degree. I mean, there's days I can go there and walk and not see anybody, which is great for me. What's that? But no, I think, and then, part of it, if you want to, you can get on the Pennypack Trail, but I agree with you. I think people that are using the Pennypack Trail are for the most part, not interested in going into those trails off into the PERT areas.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
yeah. Any other questions from anybody online? Sandra, Nicole,
Who's your photographer, Chris?
We have a photo contest.
And
Yeah. The photo contest is, how much grant money comes from a good photo contest? And it's fantastic.
Great.
thanks, Chris. I'll be in touch on the phone area.
Great, excellent.
Okay. We are skipping number 6, our Ambler Borough Community Planning Update with Tim Kenichi, because he's out sick today. So we are going to move on to Montco 2050 update with Chloe.
I'm told that's getting quiet. Just saying.
Don't jinx us there, Jonathan.
Sorry. No, I think I already did, so.
Well, we've got like 2 hours of presentation right now.
Yeah. This meeting goes till 1 o'clock, right?
Buckle up.
Great. Well, Montco 2050 has come up already a couple of times today. And I'm going to share with you specifically talking about reaching out to the public, what we have done so far, what we're planning to do, and I'm interested in your thoughts and ideas. So, oh, right. I have this because I have notes written in here and I didn't want to print out 25 pages of notes, but I have to remember to change the slides on my laptop and on here because they're not connected. Okay, so Dulcie mentioned this. This isn't really what this presentation is about, but we had our first advisory committee meeting. Several of you were there. It was a big success. It was a lot of fun. Looking forward to more. Good times. That happened. It was great. Why do we do this? We want to know mostly what the people think. That's really what we're, what do people think about the county, the future of the county, about land use, about transportation, about all of these issues. We get to know the residents through public engagement, like who's here, who are we talking to, what kind of organizations and groups are there. We get to tell people about what planning is and what the county government does and what that's all about. We get to share some of the data that we collect and analyze. Oh, did you know that births in the county have been declining in the last 10 years? The number of babies born has been going down. I don't know, that's just an example of one of a million pieces of data that we have. And the input that we gather from residents shapes the themes and goals of the plan and can build support for policies that end up in the plan. I also think that public engagements benefits us as planners. In addition to helping us shape the plan, it helps us understand what we're doing better, helps me hone my message and simplify like the concepts and ideas and think clearly about, okay, well, what are we really doing here? what do we need to tell people and what do we need to get input on? And I think that helps me think better about planning and about the work that I'm doing. So it's benefits all around, all kinds of good things. Who are we engaging? So primarily in this presentation, I'm talking about residents of the county, generally speaking. We want to hear from residents. What do people think about lots of things? But we also get input from our advisory committee, this appointed group that we're going to meet with regularly over time, that comes from all over the county, from diverse professional sectors, all kinds of other factors. We're going to hear from them, get their input. Some of you were on the advisory committee, but the people on this board who are not on the advisory committee, we want to hear from you too. Keep getting your ideas and opinions. The county commissioners are super important. They have to adopt the plan in the end. We can't just go before them when the plan is complete and say, hi, here's a plan, please adopt it, right? We have to include them in the process as we go along. Community leaders, that could be business owners, nonprofit organizations, emergency service providers, there are many others. We need to know what different groups and organizations think and need. Municipal staff and municipal elected officials and planning commission members, those are really key folks that we need to be communicating with and hearing from throughout this process. I know somewhere else where we can find a lot of really smart, engaged people who know a lot about the county and have great ideas right here in this office. So we need to make sure all of our staff can be included in this process. And there's other county staff that we need to hear from that whatever goes in this plan will impact their work into the future. So we need them to be a part of it now. And other people, school districts, neighboring counties, other folks. So focusing on the residents of the county generally, but we're also keeping in mind all of these specific groups and subsets and how to get input from all of them. And public engagement. Do we just ask people what they think and then write that in the plan? No, of course not. We're ask people what they think, ask for their ideas and input, and incorporate that along with our own understanding of the key issues, along with what the data tells us, along with our advisory committee and our understanding of land use and how policy works. Like all public engagement is an important part of it, but it's along with other things that go into creating the final plan. Okay. So I tend to think of this as 4 sort of overlapping phases. So first we do kind of an issue identification and visioning phase, which phase is the right word, where we ask the public, what's going on for you? What are the big issues facing your community, et cetera? And what do you want for the future? And then we sort of hone that and get into some more key questions that will impact policy. When we have a draft vision statement, draft goals, draft policy maps, we'll share those with the public for their reactions, input, and prioritization. And then the final draft plan before it gets adopted will be available throughout. And then throughout the whole planning process, there's also kind of one-way information sharing available. Like there's information on our website. In fact, that's the next slide. We're doing a planning process. It exists. We have things to tell you about, and this will keep you up to date on what's going on. And we have just have general things available for people to just see what's happening. And this map and resource center is the other piece of that. We're not really looking for feedback here, but we've put this up to provide a lot of information on what we're doing, let people in on the data that we're looking at and what we kind of are understanding about the county. Okay, so this first phase, we've done a lot in this phase already. Issue identification and vision. We ask questions like, what's your favorite thing about Montgomery County? What are the most significant issues facing your community? What's your vision for the future of Montgomery County? If you could change one thing about Montgomery County, what would it be? Those kinds of questions identify what are the big issues that people are talking about. And here's one example of where we used one of these. This was at an incredibly crowded event where there were, 50 tables and tons of people, like crunched against each other, getting through all the aisles. So we had one board, people could put a sticker, up to 3 stickers, but a lot of people just put one on something was one of their, a characteristic that they love most about Montgomery County today. So really quick kind of engagement, great for a situation where you are not having long conversations with people because it's too crowded and too noisy, but you can still get a little information about what's important to people, what they care about. And we were also at this event providing people with a postcard that had a QR code where they could take our online survey, and we had paper copies of the online survey that they could take with them if they wanted to do that. So it's kind of like a quick issue identification pop-up. Also in this phase, now this one was not with the general public. These were the kickoff focus groups in 2022 on different topic areas, MCPC staff, board, other key county staff, and a couple of stakeholders outside of the county were invited to these, where we did do still, what are the issues? What should we be looking into? What should we be discussing? Kind of initial issue identification. This I'll get back to because this really was more like the beginning of phase 2. Okay, so we put out the largest way in which we got public feedback in this initial phase was a survey we put online, SurveyMonkey. We talked about this before. This survey was open from October 2022 through May 2024, about a year and a half. And we had questions like this: as the county embarks on updating its comprehensive plan, how important do you think it should be to address the following issues? And they could choose essential, very important, somewhat important, not important, right? So, and then weighting those where essential is the highest and not important is the lowest. These are the things that came up as the highest from those responses: open space, aging infrastructure, flooding, roads and bridges, and retaining existing businesses. So we get this information from folks about what they think are the key issues. And then this was the second most: planning, traffic congestion, local agriculture, scenic views and historic sites, and ped bike safety. So these were the top 10 out of a much longer list, what people felt was the most important. So we get this kind of information from them. And then we also asked an open-ended question: what is the top issue facing your community today? And people can write in whatever they want. It's just a blank box. And so this, we just tagged what they wrote based on the topic of their comment. And so these were the issues that people brought up as an answer to this question. So it gives us an idea of what's on people's minds. What are they concerned about? What are they thinking about? And interestingly, it's not the same list as from the closed-ended question of where we listed a million things and asked them, how important is this? Related, but it's not the same.
Is the number in there when it says n equals, is that how many people responded?
That's how many people answered the question at all. Yeah, that's right. So 525 people answered this question all, which is a great segue to my next slide, which is that we got a lot of responses from this survey we put online, but we did take a little look at like, well, who did we hear from and who did we not hear from? In terms of race or ethnicity, was underrepresented in survey responses among the Asian American population of the county, Black or African American population, and Hispanic or Latino population. And that was like closer, but still not the same. Also underrepresented in terms of the low-income population. We did have good representation from seniors, which is sometimes a group you don't hear from as much, and good representation from families with children. So you just try to think about like, who are we hearing from? Who are we not hearing from? And a decent geographic distribution across the counties, and with more responses from our more populous communities, but responses from all over the place. So try to take a look at who we heard from in that phase and keep that in mind as we move forward. And as we look at the responses we got. We also had this thing up. It's called a Padlet. It was just kind of an open-ended thing where people could write whatever they wanted in these different areas, make comments. You could upvote or downvote other people's posts. Like, for example, so 181 posts or comments were made on this Padlet. So it's not an enormous number of people. I can't tell how many of them were made by the same person. So probably fewer than that total people. This was one of our most upvoted posts talking about walkability and bikeability in new development. It got 16 upvotes, and then this one also fairly popular, more transit-oriented development and increased density to reduce automobile dependence popular. This one saying too much density without regards to traffic, that got 3 upvotes and 10 downvotes. So I don't know exactly what this tells us. It tells us that some people were on there.
So do you think the upvotes are, they agree with that statement and the
Yes.
downvotes say they disagree with that statement?
That is what I think.
Or do you think the downvotes are that they respond negatively to that that they agree because they respond negatively?
I mean, I don't, it's just like, this is like a screenshot of it, so you can put the thumbs up or the thumbs down. So you get to, you can interpret it. I mean, my guess is the thumbs up is people who agree.
Yes.
And thumbs down would be people who disagree, but I guess it could be if someone, yeah. I don't know who responded or what was in their head. Just a couple examples of what we got from there. So this first phase of issue identification and visioning is not completely over, but we've taken what we've heard so far and gone into thinking about what are the key issues that we have to talk more about, that we have to dive into further, that will impact our policy recommendations in the end. What do we need to really kind of learn more about and talk with people more about? And this MCPC board and staff workshop that many of you took part of in December 2023 was sort of at the transition from the issue identification to the key questions phase, where we started talking in more depth about some of the issues we know we're going to need to really grapple with. So I'm going to share some examples of these. We're asking now a more targeted question about housing policy. Housing costs have risen sharply in the county. Affordability is a challenge. What policy options to address this do you support? And we have, when we ask this to the public, we have some options and some ideas, and how we ask it and how that conversation goes depends on the context of where we're asking it. So if we're asking it online or at an in-person event where we have the option to have sort of longer conversations about the issue or a quick pop-up. So that's one. Various questions around land use, community and open space, community connections, what can build community and connect people to each other, support communities, integrate diverse communities. And then questions about great places and open space preservation. So there's sort of some examples of things to get in that direction. And it will impact kind of our land use policies and things, thinking about people and places. Active transportation is a really big issue. There's been a real groundswell of support for sidewalks in particular, but for bicycling and walking generally, more people want sidewalks. People are asking for them where they didn't used to be asking for them. And we have to support that and lean into that. And we want to anyway, but there can be sometimes tension between space for cars and vehicle speeds and efficiency and some bicycle infrastructure, but bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. And then there's also this question about trails. You know, we have a great trail network and we're definitely focused on expanding that and building that. How much do we think we can get people to switch to trails for transportation trips, not just for recreation? We love people recreating on the trails. It's fantastic. If we build out the trail network, will people consider switching to trails for running errands, for commuting, for trips to restaurants, for other things? So kind of talking with folks about that and thinking about that and how that would impact our long-term planning. More key questions, talking about resiliency and infrastructure, how that impacts people, how people are thinking about it, what they're worried about, concerned about, what people want to talk about related to environmental sustainability, climate change, infrastructure, and hazards. So those are some examples. We are asking all those types of questions on the Engage Montco site, and that's kind of our focus for trying to get people's input. Anything that any of you could do to help us put the word out about this would be a great help. This is available in 9 languages. And There's lots of questions on there related to Montco 2050 and future policy. There's also other county departments that have started using this and put their projects on Engage Montco, as well as other projects from within the planning commission, like the Norristown Prison project is now on there. People can weigh in publicly on what they think should happen with that site. Our public safety group had a project on here. Please take a visit, share with your friends, neighbors, families, everyone. And we're gonna get out in the community in various ways. We're gonna pop up at public events, festivals, street fairs, parties of all types this summer. We have various posters we're working on to get the word out here, and ask people for their thoughts and ideas on all these topics too. This is kind of focused on a younger age group. Come back to this one in a second. This one was not signed by us. We are working with another organization called Connect the Dots. They are in public engagement consulting company. They do a lot for governments to help get public input on various topics. So we've partnered with them. We got a grant from the state, a $30,000 grant to help us with public outreach and expanding our public outreach to reach communities that we're not hearing from as much. And so Connect the Dots is going to support us with that work. They are a great organization. If you are going to look them up, you have to make sure to search for public engagement Philadelphia, because Connect the Dots is a phrase that's used by everyone. This is what they wrote in terms of their application response to our RFP for a public engagement consultant, but just to highlight, ensure the representation of culturally, linguistically, and socially diverse individuals in the community outreach conjunction with Montco 2050. So that's what they're doing. They're going to support us with that work. And this just summarizes, help us understand how things have been going so far. And they're going to partner with us in doing focus groups and stakeholder interviews and assist with some of the pop-ups that we're doing. And then they'll do some data analysis of the public engagement opportunities and help us think about how to incorporate that feedback back into policies. So we're glad to be partnering with them, glad for their support, and glad to the state of Pennsylvania for helping fund that. Okay, so just to mention, when we have drafts of the vision statement, goals, policy maps, we will share those for the public, with the public for their feedback. These are our current future land use and growth and preservation maps. Those will be available, and then who knows what this will look like, but it's actually required by the municipality's planning code that this be publicly available for a period of time before it's adopted. So once we get to the end, we have a draft plan, it'll be available for people to take a look at. So what are we doing? Engage Montco, that website, please share it, pop-ups. Our commissioners normally have had their board meetings at 10 a.m. on Thursdays here in this building on the 8th floor. These commissioners have decided to take the show on the road. They want to do some of their board meetings here, as they have been doing for many years. They're also going to take some to different communities in the evening. They already did one in Limerick Township at 6 p.m. on I think it was also a Thursday. Very successful. And they're planning to keep doing that every few months, go out to some community and hold their board meeting there in the evening. And we are hoping to partner with them. They've been receptive to this so far, that in the hour leading up to the meeting, we would have materials available about Montco 2050 and invite folks to come early and engage with us, provide their feedback prior to the commissioners meeting. We think this will be a great partnership because people are interested in hearing the commissioners and attending those events out in the community, and that we can kind of help bring people to their meetings and they can help bring people to our events. We're going to do targeted outreach, as I mentioned, to residents we're not hearing from as much. But we know we're never going to hear from everyone, and we want to make sure to include other kinds of current public input that we're getting from other county departments that are doing public outreach and our own municipal plans that we're working on. So for example, the Office of Public Health just conducted a survey where they got over 3,000 responses from county residents. Did they ask all of the exact same questions we would ask? No. But are there some interesting things in there? Yes, they asked about people's concerns and interests, about access to transportation modes, about community health and needs and concerns in open space. So we're going to look at their data and include what's relevant. And we're doing comprehensive plans all over the county. When people provide input for those, we want to hear and include that as well. And then of course, all those other groups, other county staff, and other folks, we want to make sure to continue to keep involved in the conversation too.
County Commission was getting the word out to travel.
That's a great question. They have hired a ton more communication staff than they ever used to have. So I assume they're doing things to get the word out. The word did get out about that Limerick meeting. I hear it was very well attended. I don't know, were you there, Yvonne?
I was not there,
Okay.
but it was very well attended.
So they tentatively have the next one scheduled for September 5th. The location and date are not totally confirmed though, but we hope to, if that happens, we hope to be there from 5 to 6 before their meeting would be at 6.
We are also intending, or have asked to be on July, we're going to be on the August agenda for voting day, updating public comments plan effort.
For their regular meeting here. And on the last side, we're counting stuff. We're trying to keep track of how many people see or hear something about what we're doing, and then how many people are providing us with some kind of input. We're just trying to get robust data and keep track of what we're doing. And that's it. Would love your thoughts, comments, ideas, and input.
Thanks, Chloe. Any comments or questions for Chloe regarding Montco 2050 update? Board members in the room?
The only thing I would, first of all, thank you for this, for the update. Can we as a municipality link to what you guys are doing so that we can get the message out?
Sure.
Okay.
By all means.
I knew the
Yeah,
answer was gonna be.
no, that's great. Thank you, John. And I think we haven't done enough to try to.
Is there language, messaging that you would like us to use, or can we just use what you guys are using and pass it on, or what would you recommend?
The comms team has started doing these social media toolkits, which speak exactly, I think, to that, and providing like actual, a lot of it's designed for the Facebook, Twitter, whatever platforms, but they can also be implemented in any kind of news feed.
Yeah, if there's a toolkit, we can, do whatever we need to do.
And in the MCPC monthly that Rita puts out, there's been in the last couple, a little, hey, we're doing comp plan, visit Engage Montco. So I think there's probably language and a link you can just take from there and share if you're up for it.
Anything else in the room?
No, that will be very helpful. We have the online magazine, Secate Rebate. It will be great just to link and to have the right phrasing.
Yeah. We just got an invite. I hope we can make it, not too many have invitation, but to Aklamo's back to school event where they said last year there were over 400 people to pop up at their school giveaway thing on August 21st.
I think our social media toolkit's available on the website.
Yeah, I was careful what I say, because I need to make sure what is out there. If it isn't out there, we'll make sure, but.
Yeah, I think it's on the Montco 2050 website, and it has a link to all of like the approved language and the 3 logos.
I do think there's some stuff there that's way back here. Right here. Montgomery County PA.gov/Montco 2050. I think there I think there's some social media images there. You're right, Austin. Austin Mosley, who I think you guys met last month, is working a lot on public outreach for Montco 2050. So I see him out and about.
And this will also, I think, as you might have said up front, be the central topic of our July advisory committee meeting. Getting their, that group's input, help advice, we know there's a lot of talent and experience with doing outreach in that body, so we're gonna definitely lean on them.
That's the Zoom meeting?
Correct.
Nicole, Sandra, Bob, anything on this topic?
But very, very informative.
Okay. Thanks, Claude. Appreciate it. Look forward to seeing this progress and being involved. All right, director's report.
All right, well, I lied. I do not have the 30-minute version prepared one time here, but I won't have to skip over things as usual, so we'll be about 10 minutes here. As always, like to start with staff news. And we have a new planner to introduce, Adam Shantz, in our community planning section. I'll let Eric.
Yeah, just briefly, Adam Shantz. He did his undergraduate tickets in college in American Studies, and then he's been working on his master's degree, which he just got from Temple University in city and regional planning. Let Adam give any other introduction he'd like.
Of course, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to work for MCPC. I'm actually a career changer, so I have a lot of experience in the workforce development space, primarily in Philadelphia, but I was in Reading, Pennsylvania for a year out of college, and I'm very passionate about planning issues, land use, transportation planning. Done a little bit of work while I was at Temple on 422 and evaluating that infrastructure and its pros and cons. Yeah, I'm just excited to be here. So nice to meet you all.
As I mentioned, the Hatfield Borough contract, he will be working with Tim Staub on the comprehensive plan there. He's helping Chloe out, wrap up the Cheltenham comprehensive plan. And then we're working on 3 regional plans. So he's going to be helping out with those. So we get a lot of comprehensive planning. He's ultimately going to be getting deeper in Perkioga Township and Pottstown Borough and taking over those individual contracts over time as we ramp up and down.
So, Temple grad. Do Temple Place on.
Those of us who look are only for grad school.
I actually don't.
Yeah,
I
no.
for undergrad. I'm very excited that John Fry is now president.
Yeah. That doesn't the idea that it should
I mean, I was working full time in going to school. But I'll just.
I should tell that we call it, you all just kind of just.
On staff,
Yeah.
there's something for September.
So what is the fight song?
You don't know?
No, I'm dead serious. I'm for undergrad. Temple's fight song is so embarrassing. Yeah, yes, T for Temple University.
I've never.
Fight for
the cherry and the white.
Cherry and the white. You guys sing that at like basketball? All the time.
Somehow.
I'm a UConn fan, so
Not only sports events, we sing it, right?
they should withhold master's degrees.
Some schools have
You gotta sign it.
Temple grad beat each other, they do the fight song.
That's awesome. I heard men's fight song. I was gonna bring that up. That's
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
We might have to have a local university fight song battle. And everyone will have to learn this. Including me.
I'll wear my Temple cheerleader outfit. I'm not.
Okay, that is.
So sick of seeing this.
We will get to St. Joe's Hall. That's always good. All right. Other staff news. Well, first, the sad news. I don't think we knew last meeting. Erin Feely has resigned. She's already moved on. Her husband took a job in Santa Fe, New Mexico, so the commute was no longer going to work for her. But we were very grateful for all the time she spent on lots of projects, and for me specifically the Norristown or Erie Street Prison project. She was very instrumental. So we wish her the best as well. We have an opening for the in Patty section of design for assistant design section manager. That obviously is just happening, so we're just starting to search for that and posting of it. Our senior GIS coordinator, which has been open for quite some time, an offer was accepted, and that will be going through salary board next week. So I hope to have official good news on that, but I do have good news, unofficially. Which leaves our most recent, with the exception of the assistant design section manager, the other recent position that's been open is the principal graphic designer for communications, which Patty and folks have been doing quite a few interviews on, and there's lots of talent out there. So we're looking forward to, I think, filling that in the very near future. So that's all relatively good outlook on the staff situation. Happy about that. Moving on, the county commissioners have scheduled an open house for municipal managers next week on the 19th, Friday the 19th. From 11 to 12:30, I believe is the time. So far, they've already got about a third of municipalities responding that they'll be coming in. I will be there giving an update on planning commission projects and any information we need to share. And I've already got a list of things I want to promote, and comp plan being kind of the lead off of that. But also a number of other things. And then a few other departments will be there as well, and then it'll be a back and forth Q&A. They did this for commerce and elected state delegation of elected officials previously, these kind of meet and greet environments. So again, good sign. The county commissioners are definitely big on reaching out and establishing connections and keeping conversations, or even starting conversations where they may not have been before. And on that note, I think I'll skip ahead. Just give you guys kind of an update unofficially again on what's happening with our county administration. They've been doing a lot of hiring lately and is creating new positions, all with the purpose of making the services more effective and organizing management, especially around policy. Some of those positions include intergovernmental affairs. They have 2 positions in now. They kind of split the coverage of both outreach to municipalities as well as electeds at the state and federal level. So I've already seen, in just this year alone, quite an increase in coordination and collaboration, and I've been involved with directly with staff from Senators Casey, Fetterman, Madeline Representative Dean, Scanlon. As well as our many state officials within the county. So again, good to have those conversations and that focus being put on it. Coordinating between different people, always new challenges, but also new benefits. We have a new senior policy director that was hired, Thomas Mohr, who, and all of these people, when they come in, we've been setting up meetings so that they can get to know planning and know what we have to offer, and make sure they're aware as they're trying to figure out their job, what already exists or what resources we can bring to the table. And those have been very productive conversations. Inside our 1 hour meeting with Mr. Mohr went 3 hours because there was so much to talk about. It was very exciting to hear his visions and ideas and what he's doing with the commission.
He was in my small group session with Chloe on the 2015 thing, and I understand why the meeting went 3 hours.
Yes, but it was very constructive, and we're looking forward to working with him further, and also having those voices, having those things, different channels to reach the ears that need to hear them. And a couple other things that our communications office has really been beefed up with a social media manager, a website designer, a graphic designer on their side. As well as the general staff who handles everything there. So That's been a pretty robust effort. Our COO, Lee Saltesiak, now has 2 deputy COOs, possibly a third. You followed the news, they had selected a third, and then that person had to rescind their acceptance due to another job. I haven't heard if they're looking for a replacement as yet, or what the plan is going forward, but Tom Bonner and Dr. Tamara Williams, Dr. Williams, who was formerly the HHS director, was promoted into a deputy COO role, along with Tom Bonner, who's been there since last year. So they're all, again, working in different aspects and responsibilities covering the administration. And then there's also a grants director who's been hired. That's the only person of all this list I have not met yet, but they are going to help provide us. We do a lot of grant work, and we'll keep doing a lot of grant work, but we may have another person that can assist with that, or we can give things to them, hopefully, or help find additional grants. So all that is good news. Lots of work kind of coordinating, getting to know people, again, getting the message out, but it's time well spent. We're in budget season, or kind of the start of it. Weird to say that because the budget doesn't get adopted until December. But this is the time where we kind of talk to our finance office and director and go through different things for planning. It's really 2 facets. One is our operational budget, which is relatively a bit straightforward. Of our $6.2-ish million annual budget for 2024, 5.1 or so of that is salary and staff. So that's all kind of constant since the compensation study. Obviously, that number went up significantly in 2023, and hopefully, continues keeping up with the times and other points. But we also then we're looking very carefully at that 1 million that goes towards all the other expenses, which is counterbalanced by revenue. We take in about 1.2 or 1.3 million in our county contracts and grant revenues. That's not project grant revenues, but actual a few that go into administration. So anyway, just sharing a little bit of that. We're going to be talking to we meet with finance next week to go through that and get their feedback. And then the county commission.
Wasn't there something where like road projects were being put into the planning commission's budget? And
right.
That seemed to be inappropriate. And what was, do I have that correct?
Yeah, I think I understand what you're talking about. So that's the capital budget side. So we have, our capital budget is about 63 million, roughly. And that includes everything, Ridge Pike is probably the biggest placeholder in that. But other projects as well, our trail projects, open space, things like, well, the prison was an A&I, it might be in our budget next year. And then, and like the White Marsh floodplain restoration is another one.
Does that work to our advantage or disadvantage?
Because I don't think in the end, the county's, managing its projects, and they're in our budget because we are the leaders, the project managers that oversee it. Now, there is assets and infrastructure and property elements to it. But that's the way they've chosen to do it. And I think the biggest negative to it is it can be confusing, and we hear it at the Board of Commissioners. Occasionally there's a member of the public who likes to speak up and ask, why are we spending $63 million on planning? And they're not. We're spending it on roadways and the things that everyone uses and appreciates. So that's the negative, and even making sure our new commissioners are aware of that dynamic. So I bring it up every year. Well, I think we'll bring it up even more so because it's been getting some public airing, and I wouldn't mind doing it a little differently, but either way we'll accept it.
Jonathan, if I could, I'd also answer your question with a little bit of that it is an advantage for us. I mean, it keeps our staff busy, number one. Keeps you guys involved in things that are relevant to planning that otherwise you'd be controlled by other departments, number two. But also keeps us connected and respected by other agencies in the county, right? So other departments can't just say, oh, the planning commission, they're just all about this comp plan every 10 years, a bunch of land use, and they don't matter, right? If we are integrated through the stuff with parks, the trails, or space, or heritage services, whatever they call that now, Dave Clifford. We're integrated with roads and bridges and assets and infrastructure. And then, of course, you know, these are things that our commissioners care about and that their staff care about. So even though it kind of warps the numbers and it doesn't fit cleanly into capital budgeting, it really gives us the opportunity to not only be a traditional planning agency, which we do, but also an implementation arm of the county, which is really where you want a planning commission to be.
Thanks, Matt. That's great points. Yeah, so that capital budget, that kind of happens afterward. We don't have a meeting set up yet, but we're preparing our documents and you'll hear more about that later or in the coming months. And that's also the capital budget is probably where the county's biggest challenge as far as addressing everything and what they do each year with the new commissioners. And you can look across the street to see where the biggest impact of that budget is occurring with the new Justice Center. So a couple other things I just want to highlight quickly: the Erie Street Prison project. We still have our page up on the Engaged Montco site, and there is a public survey that is still open. It's scheduled to be open through July 25th. We have over 100 responses right now, encouraging everyone and anyone who spends time in Norristown or cares about the prison itself or has ideas for it. That survey is a good opportunity to have your voice heard or put something in. So encourage that.
What is that?
It's the Erie Street Prison.
Yeah.
Is that you're asking what it is or the?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't know, but when is the feedback?
25th. July 25th is when the survey is scheduled to close, and engage.montco.
Engage.montgomerycountypa.gov.
Yes.
I can send you the link.
Thank you.
And it's also on our website.
Montco 2050, the Erie Street Prison.
Public health one, have they done? Public health survey is over and the EMS survey is over. And in the bottom right corner, there's a little thing that says English and it has a little arrow. If you click on it, it gives you Arabic, Bengali, Gujarati, Italian, Vietnamese, Spanish, and Mandarin, and Korean.
Okay. And we also have a social media toolkit for that. I've been trying to get Norristown to tap us into any channels they have of just getting the word out on that. And likewise, if anyone else or organizations have it, we definitely appreciate the promotion.
Yeah, if you want to spread the word with content, that'd be great, because we're trying to get as much information to the people who live or and do whatever in Norristown. So that'd be great.
I wanted to mention something on the housing affordability issue. We have talked about this and kind of stemmed out of the summit that took place back in April with the county commissioners. One of our roles, obviously, other than dealing with the issue of housing and attainability all the time, is we're promoting a new service that we're offering to municipalities. It's a zoning analysis where we come in and take an in-depth look over both the code in terms of definitions and regulations, where there's opportunities. There might be to consider where maybe it's overly restrictive on allowing other housing options like accessory dwelling units. And also looking at the zoning map itself and where different types of units are located or permitted, and see if there's any kind of imbalance in that, or again, opportunities where it makes sense. Missing middle type address. So it's kind of it's not a full, we're not offering to do a full study / plan, 50-page document. It's more of an extended memo kind of thing where we basically spend about 2 months identifying these issues and giving real options or considerations for the municipality to look at. And right now we're getting those municipalities who are already kind of have the door open and want to do something about affordable housing in their community. And now we want to give them the tools and resources to how to do that, as well as suggestions where to start. So Plymouth Township was the first community that took us up on this offer. Ann and I went out there 2 weeks ago and talked to their board, and they were very excited and willing to see what we have to say. So we're working on that now. We have a meeting with Lower Gwinnett to see if they might also want to pursue this. And obviously we can't do 62 municipalities all in the next 2 months. But we'll take the interest where we find it and see what opportunities we can move on. So
how are you letting communities know that this is available to them?
So it's a bit of a slow rollout, like we've kind of mentioned, we've started at the summit. And the commissioners' talking points mentioned, but we haven't really like branded it or put out there. And part of that's a hesitancy to not get those, the 30 projects that we don't have the staff to handle. At that meet and greet next week, that is on the top of my list also to inform managers there on. And basically what we're looking at right now is we're dipping our toes in, like, who's interested? Are you trying to do something? Are you open to us, offering some suggestions? And if so, boom, let's figure it out and do it. And we'll do as much as we can, as fast as we can, using both our county planning and our community planners. That's a contract.
We would be interested,
Great. So yeah, we'll follow up on that. And I think the last thing, just a couple of events on your event sheet, little thin in the hot summer month here. But there is a community event for Hawes Avenue and Chain Street Trailheads coming up on July 20th. I think that's a Saturday. From 10 to 12, getting community input on those two trailhead design projects that Bill Hartman's section has been working on, and is looking to get community input on how we can make the Schuylkill River Trail more accessible to residents in Morristown. At the ITE Institute of Transportation Engineers transportation section, and Matt Evan in particular will be having a starring role. Matt's leading a session with some private consultant partners on the Lafayette Street project, and that's not here anymore, but reviewing that experience for other professionals. He's also participating in a panel discussion about the $5 vehicle registration fee and what it's meant for Montgomery County. That is July 21st and 24th at the Philadelphia area. And then finally, Professional Recycles of PA Annual Conference is in Bethlehem, and Donna Karamenico will attend with Veronica Harris, chair of that conference's legislative committee. I will also be involved with some of the presentations and legislative updates. So that is all I have. So stretch it out a little bit.
All right, well, I think we're done with our agenda. Is there any other comments from board members or public before we adjourn? Anybody online?
Nope.
Okay. We are adjourned. Have a, be careful out there in the summer. And, August meeting.
We typically don't hold an August meeting, and we're
So
fine
we
with that.
we will forego having a August meeting and re-adjourn in September. So, but I appreciate everybody. Have a good summer. Be careful out there.
And also remember October, we're looking to do the away tour in Cheltenham and Springfield. So keep that on your calendar. Same day, but it'll be a longer morning.
Excellent.